one of the things that wasn't clear to me is what are some of the different characteristics that occur in the different driving conditions, such as urban versus rural? Because you highlighted that you tested it in those different environments. So what are some of the factors that change and impact your experiments?
First, I want to mention that just as our results showed for those two types of environment, we might have different LT event that is best for our experiment. Besides, for urban, it is very hard to have the experiment on plan 2 because urban always have a traffic issue. So the cruise control might not be easy to use. And for highway, such issue is elevated, but it's not that perfect. But in general, I think highway is more suitable for such plan 2 experiments.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Yes, two questions. One, well, first, thank you for the talk. One was, this obviously took some time to do it. I was just wondering, how long did it take to collect all this data? Because since we were talking about reproducibility at the last session, so how long does it take? And second, is that data available if other people want to use it for their own research without having to rerun their own vehicles?
Let me answer your second question first, because the first question is related to the technical parameters. I'm not so sure about that. So far, we did collect a large volume of the data, but right now we are not making it public or open to others. We might consider to provide it to public later. I'm not so sure about that. Besides, for your first question, our two co-first authors are online. I'm not sure whether you can switch to Zoom to let them answer that question. I think they are in Zoom. Maybe you can switch to Zoom and they will answer those two questions automatically.
They're on Zoom?
Yeah, they just need to unmute and speak. They can unmute themselves.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, this is Jinja, and I'm one of the authors of this paper. Yeah. And thanks for the question. And I believe the first question is how long will it take to mine all the data?
Yes. How long did it take to collect all the data?
Yeah. So the USRB are on the sample rate of 20 hertz. So for each test, because we only use 400 data, so it may take about 20 seconds for each test. But to collect all the data, we may need to run the experiment again and again, back and forth. So it really takes a very long time to collect all the valid data. So though I cannot remember the exact time because we really did a lot of experiments, but from the beginning to the end, it's really take a few months.
Okay, we're talking hours, days, weeks, months, years?
I think he said a few months.
A few months? I missed that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we had somebody doing roadside jamming experiments, and the same thing. It took several months to collect all the data, so I was wondering.
Yes, it's really take a long time.
Thank you.
Okay. So I was actually going to ask a similar question as Jim in terms of whether or not you were going to be able to make the data available. So I would certainly encourage you to think about that. And if you're not able to, would just be curious in understanding what some of the issues or concerns might be with regards to sharing.
Yeah. So Ndss and Jincheng, please discuss with your PhD advisors to publish those data.
Yes. Okay. And then another thing that occurred to me is, had you considered trying to get access to actual platooning vehicles? So instead of using your little, your cars and the adaptive cruise control to maintain the distance and speed or what have you, what if you actually got some real platooning vehicles? I would think that there might be some trucking companies or some states that are working with trucking companies that might be willing to have you work with them and use their platoons as test beds.
Yeah, that is a very great suggestion. First, I want to clarify that we only use cruise control on our own car for urban experiment. for the highway experiment, we did use Plan 2 testbed from the university, from a professor. He has that testbed, but we cannot, or we didn't consider to get access to the Plan 2 for industry. I think that is a good idea. Maybe we can try to find collection.
What was the professor's platoon test bed? Was it actual vehicles in the field, or was it some kind of simulator?
Well, that is real vehicles with all the
Platooning.
all the the sensors. Yes.
Yeah. So it was using DSRC and all the protocols and everything.
Yes, that's
Okay, got it. Perfect. All right. Any other questions? That's it.
So I'm curious about something. So you said that the equipment wouldn't always record reliably. Why? Do you know why? And what was going on with the equipment? Is it just temperamental, or what was the deal there?
I'm not sure whether I fully understand the question. David, could you rephrase it?
Your second bullet on data collection, the first sub-bullet says the equipment would not always record reliably. So Laura's wondering what were some of the recording issues.
Well, those kind of
why?
Well, we are not sure why, but we can always get weird recording issues. For example, maybe at the very beginning of our experiment, those two USRPs are functioning correctly, but during the experiment, one USRP might stop recording those data. We're not sure why. We think that might be because of the buffer issue, but not sure why. Our solution is to repeat our experiment again and again to hope we will be lucky.
So then my next question to go with that is, it sounds like what you were saying is it was just dropping out, and then it was either you were getting data or you were not getting data. And so the question is, when you were getting data, how do you know that you were getting all the data and that it wasn't intermittent?
Well, I think so that is the importance of the synchronization as well as the geolocation and the time step information. With such information, we can always synchronize the RSS data collected in different vehicles, and then to make sure that we are computing the correlation and the ambient environment in the correct way.
Hi, Isaiah from George Washington University. I was curious, it seems to me that the places that would be most beneficial to have platoons of trucks or something would also be places with very poor signal strength. Is there any concern that as you're in somewhere like, out in wherever that's just got basically no signal, wouldn't that cause the correlation of trucks even really far away to still be high if they're essentially getting no background signal? Or is there always just enough LTE background static for there to be something for them to read?
Yeah, that is a very good question. So far, our protocol is relying on the RF modality. So the protocol will only works when those two vehicles can observe the RF signals. But that is for our current setting. But the RF signal is not the only ambient environment that we can use. You can also use sounds or noise in the environment as well as the visions. That depends on your setting. And in the future, I hope the cellular V2VX will become reality. That means we will have many critical infrastructures that might be available to implement our protocol. But the general answer is that the RF modality is not the only choice. You can also have some other modality to represent your ambient environment.
Thanks.